What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As always, please like the video, subscribe to the channel for all of your NBA talk. In this video, I want to look at the Lakers roster and grade each player's season so far. The Lakers are sitting at 33 and 35. They're in the mix in that play-in position right now. Of course, they'd love to get out of the play-in and be at least a 6th seed. We'll see what happens. It's a wild Western Conference season so far. So I want to take some time and take a look at the roster and give each player a grade for their season so far based on how they've performed and the expectations that we've had of each player going into this season. Now, of course, the Lakers have made several trades, several changes. There's been turnover throughout this season. I'm not going to grade the players that are no longer on the active Lakers roster. There have been a grand total of 24 players that have suited up in a Laker uniform this season, which is wild. So guys like Westbrook, Pat Bev, Thomas Bryant, Kendrick Nunn, who probably get an F in my book, and Juan Toscano Anderson. I'm not going to give these guys a grade for this video. I might come back at the end of the season and give the entire roster of players a grade. But for this particular video, I just want to look at the players that we have now, right? The post-trade deadline Lakers roster. And I have it up here on the screen for you right now. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way towards the main guys. Okay, so let's take a look at this roster here. Now, the bottom three players, Davon, Reed, Cole Swider, Scotty Pippen Jr., we haven't seen much of them at all, right? Davon Reed was part of that 4-team trade that sent Mo Bamba our way. He's only played in garbage minutes, I believe, so I'm just going to give him a C. I'm also going to give a C to Cole Swider and Scotty Pippen Jr. as well, just because we've seen them in very limited action. Cole Swider, he's supposed to be a shooter. I don't think he does much else on the court. Scotty Pippen Jr., a lot of Lakers fans were a little bit gassed watching him in preseason, making some plays at the point guard position, but he's barely played for the Lakers at all. I think he's only played when we've had like an injury crisis or whatever. So those three players are going to get a C in my book. The next player is D'Angelo Russell. Now, he's been great so far. Obviously, he was traded at the trade deadline to the Lakers. And since he's been a Laker uniform in his second stint as a Laker, he's averaged 19 points, shooting 53% from the field. He's been excellent. We all saw that game against the Toronto Raptors. He basically won the game for us, had a mad fourth quarter. That was a game that I thought we had lost multiple times throughout that one. But D'Lo really rescued the Lakers and won that game when Anthony Davis didn't even break double digits for that one. So he's been phenomenal. I would give him an A. But since he missed some time due to injury, I'm going to have to downgrade that to an A-. When he stepped on Dante DiVincenzo's foot from that inbounds pass, I didn't think he'd miss 6 games, but he missed a significant chunk of time there. But yeah, D'Lo's been excellent so far. I got to be honest, though. I wasn't the biggest fan of D'Angelo Russell when he was drafted as a Laker. You know, there were all the memes about him, him jumping up and down, looking like a lunatic, and then the camera pans to Kobe Bryant with this deadpan stare, him fumbling inbounds pass and turning the ball over. I don't even have to go into the stuff with him and Nick Young. So a lot of sour memories, in my opinion, with D'Angelo Russell during his first stint as a Laker. But to be fair to him, the organization didn't do him favors back then, right? You had a head coach in Byron Scott who didn't really like him as a player. Then you had a front office executive in Magic Johnson that was throwing him under the bus, saying he's not a leader. And then they trade him for basically nothing. He was packaged in a salary dump. Timothy Mozgov, one of the worst contracts in recent Lakers history. He was basically packaged in the deal just to offload Mozgov's salary. So it ended very poorly for D'Angelo Russell in his first stint. But now that he's back, I think he's looked great. He's obviously matured a lot, has some veteran experience in this league now, and I think he's been a great signing. So I'm going to give him an A-. In a lot of ways, he's like the opposite of Russell Westbrook, right? A player that I was desperately hoping would work out as a Laker, but looking back now, it didn't work out at all. He has a soft touch around the basket. He is a good shooter. He always looks in control. Things that Russell Westbrook did not have as a Laker. So he's been great so far. Moving on now is Mo Bamba. Now, I saw a lot of Lakers fans on Twitter being gassed that we got Mo Bamba. I didn't know too much about him other than he had tremendous size, like 7-footer. I think his wingspan is ridiculous, right? Like 7'10" or something like that. And we got rid of Thomas Bryant beforehand. So it made sense that the Lakers would bring a guy like Mo Bamba in because Thomas Bryant did pretty well for us as a Laker. But he had defensive deficiencies. And I think Mo Bamba has the potential to be much better on the defensive end than a Thomas Bryant. But he's been injured as well. He's been in and out of the lineup. Doesn't look like Darvin Ham completely trusts him yet. He hasn't found consistent minutes off the bench. So I'm going to give Mo Bamba a C+. Okay, he's been somewhat kind of a blah acquisition for me at this point. Obviously, we need, support in the front court, which we're hoping he could bring. He's going to be out for like a few more weeks here, which is disappointing. But early returns have been up and down, so I think a C+ is appropriate for Mo Bamba. Next up is Jared Vanderbilt, and this guy has been an absolute revelation for the Lakers. He was, like I mentioned in a previous video, he was basically a minor piece in a trade package that sent D'Angelo Russell to the Lakers. And in short order, he has established himself as a starter for this Lakers team. We all know about the energy, the hustle. I mean, it was on full display in that Dallas Mavericks game. He brought so much hustle, effort, intensity to the Lakers. He's not the best shooter, but he is a slasher. He gets offensive rebounds and he can defend. Just been a great acquisition for the Lakers. Like I mentioned in that previous video, he reminds me a lot of 2009 Trevor Ariza with the energy that he brings to the court. Just has a knack for finding the ball. So I give Jared Vanderbilt an A. He's been fantastic for the Lakers, and I think a lot of Lakers fans should be really, really gassed about this acquisition because we have him on contract next year too at a really good price, $4.6 million, I believe. So you got to big up Rob Pelinka for that trade and acquiring Jared Vanderbilt for very little compared to his value. Next up is Malik Beasley. Now, a lot of Lakers fans also were very excited about Beasley, and I think rightfully so because he has been one of the better shooters in the NBA over the past few seasons. But like so many Lakers players in the past, this is where shooters come to die. This is where players forget how to shoot the basketball. And Malik Beasley has been awful from the three-point line since he's been a Laker. He's shooting like 32.6% from three as a Laker. This is a guy who's a career 38% three-point shooter on high volume, but he's not been very good from the three-point line by his standards, right? It seems as though Darvin Ham has given him the ultimate green light to take any three he wants. Like, he's been coached to just chuck it up anytime he touches the ball. As a result, he's taken so many poor shots, so many contested threes. I don't remember a player who's taken more contested threes than Malik Beasley since like Kobe Bryant, to be honest with you. And he's been a little bit underwhelming for me because watching him game in, game out, I realize that when his shot is not falling, I don't really know if he offers that much to the table. Yes, he can put it on the deck and do a little bit, but he's shooting 37% from the field. I think there is hope for him because, I mean, the numbers don't lie. His track record is proven that he can be a good shooter. So I'm hoping that the law of averages work out here and he, finds his shooting touch by the end of the regular season. But right now, he's not done too well. He is on high wages. So I'm gonna give him a C+ as well. Hasn't missed any time, unlike some of the other trade acquisitions, D'Angelo Russell, Mo Bamba. He has been reliable from that standpoint, but he needs to pick up his shooting form and refine his touch from beyond the arc, or else that's going to look like more of a flop than a bang acquisition for the Lakers there. Okay, next up is another guy that we got before the trade deadline in Rui Hachimura. This was, in my opinion, somewhat of a surprise acquisition. I think it came out of nowhere. It came before the trade deadline, I think maybe a week or so before. And I think Rui's been pretty decent as a Laker, averaging 10 points, mostly coming off the bench. I'm realizing that he has a pretty decent mid-range jumper that from that 10-foot range. He's pretty solid there. Is a good athlete, has good size. The one thing I'll say is that I've been a little bit disappointed in his lack of defensive versatility. I thought he'd be able to handle guarding wing players a little bit more than he has. Doesn't have the lateral foot speed that I thought he would have on the defensive end. Because if he's matched up with a guy like a Paul George or like a Jason Tatum, I think they would eat him up alive because he's just not quick enough laterally. So it seems like he's really confined to guarding power forwards on the defensive end. So that is kind of a disappointing thing for me. But other than that, I mean, he's been pretty much what I expected. A guy that can give you points off the bench, is not going to be a complete liability on the defensive end unless he is switched onto more of these talented wing players. I'm going to give Rui a solid B for his performance as a Laker so far this season. Okay, next up is Max Christie. Now, I think I got him wrong. I'll be the first to admit I didn't really care for him much at the beginning of the season, but slowly and surely, as I've seen him play more and more, I realize that he has a lot of potential, especially on the defensive end. This guy, I think in his future, he can be one of the better wing defenders in the league. He has 3-and-D player potential. It's just unfortunate that he's buried on the bench, and we're probably not going to see him for the rest of the season based off of Darvin Ham just giving him DMPs, right? He's racking up these DMP CDs on his game log. I don't think he's going to see much action for the rest of the year, but from what we saw this season, I have a lot of hope for this guy. I think he could be a player. So I'm going to give his rookie campaign as a Laker a B, solid B. Maybe even a B plus because he was a second round pick, I believe. But he shot the ball pretty well, 41.9%. Like I said, he's a pretty good defender, shows really good defensive potential. Yeah, I'm going to upgrade him to a B plus because I'm excited about his potential as a Laker in the future. Okay, I'm going to skip LeBron and AD for last. So let's move on to Lonnie Walker IV. Now, the tragic tale of Lonnie Walker as a Laker. This guy started off so well as a Laker, going into the first month or two. He was unquestionably the third option on this team after LeBron and AD. There was a long stretch of time as a Laker where he was averaging like 18 points a game. Let me just look up his splits for the season, his month-to-month breakdown, because he's had an unfortunate fall from grace. Darvin hasn't really used him much at all anymore. He just plays spot minutes here and there now. But at the start of the season, he was off to a fantastic start here. Let's see what his averages were as a Laker. Okay, so yeah. In October, he was averaging 14 points a game. Of course, the Lakers only played 6 games that month. But in November, 11 games, he was averaging 18 points. Shooting 51% from the field, 44% from 3. He was looking really good in the beginning. But I think if we're being honest, he isn't the best defensively. And I think that's why he's lost favor in Darvin Ham's rotation. And he's now really only playing, here and there. If a guy's out, then he'll play. But if we have a full roster, I don't think he's going to get many minutes at all from here on out. So it is kind of a sad tale. I was definitely on the boat of wanting to keep him past this season, a few months ago. But it seems like the writing's on the wall for Lonnie Walker, especially that we traded for a guy like Rui Hachimura. It seems like his Lakers career is going to come to an end after this season. So I'm going to give Lonnie Walker a C plus, maybe a B minus, because he has fallen out of the rotation, and I don't really expect much from him for the rest of the way this year. Okay, let's move on to Austin Reaves. Another standout for this season, in my opinion. He has really expanded his game. He's shown that he can be a playmaker as well and a reliable scorer off the bench. He's, really come on strong, especially as of late. On the season, he's averaging 11 points a game, shooting 51% from the field, 38.7% from three. So he's being very efficient, getting it done. This Lakers season has been mad with injuries and people being in and out of the lineup, and there were many times where the team relied on Austin Reaves to, amp up his production. And I think for the most part, he's answered the call here. Especially turning it on this past month. He's averaging 14.8 points per game in the month of March in 6 games. Coming off, he's really leading that second unit now with Dennis Schroder. I don't think there's a single Lakers fan that's not going to like Austin Reaves. And yes, he's a free agent in the summer. They definitely better keep this guy long term and re-sign him. Don't pull an Alex Caruso on Austin Reaves. Okay, we got to protect this guy at all costs. He has a bright future, and I hope he has a bright future as a Los Angeles Laker. I'm going to give Austin Reaves an A for his sophomore year as a Los Angeles Laker. Now let's move on to Wenyen Gabriel. Another kind of a sad tale, I guess. He just hasn't gotten the opportunity that I think he deserves. I like Wenyen Gabriel as a player. I think he brings a lot of energy to the court. He's one of those glue guys that every team needs, that is going to hustle, get loose balls, get offensive rebounds, graft, be a grinder, do the ugly things that a lot of other players aren't willing to do. I know his numbers aren't really going to reflect his value as a Laker. On the year, he's averaging 6 points a game, shooting 61% from the field. He can hit an occasional three-pointer, but I think it's really the energy that he brings to the court, much like a Jared Vanderbilt, right? It's just unfortunate for him that he is kind of a big man, but his size is letting him down. He's only 6'9". If he was like even an inch taller, or if he was like 6'11", teams would be lining up to sign this guy. But his size kind of limits him a little bit based on his skill set. But I do like Wenyen Gabriel as a player. I'm going to give him a B minus, maybe a B, but I'll go with a B minus because, his minutes have been inconsistent throughout the year. He's been good. He does have difficulty going up against the more talented bigs in the league, but I like him as a player. I have a soft spot for him because of the hustle that he brings to the court. Okay, next up is Dennis Schroder. This guy is kind of a polarizing figure in the Lakers fan base. You either love him or hate him. I tend to like Dennis Schroder now that he's in this 6-man role. Okay, as a starter, I don't think he's good enough to be a starting point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers. But as a backup point guard, I think he's more than good enough and more than capable to lead the second unit and be the facilitator for the second unit off the bench. Darvin Ham loves Dennis Schroder. He plays most, if not all, crunch time minutes. He's in that last 5 to close out games because he is an aggressive player. He does pick up full court. He is a pretty decent one-on-one perimeter defender. Not the best shooter, right? Is turnover prone at times. Is not the best, true point guard in terms of facilitating, but he can get to the line. He can get to the rack. He does make his mid-range jumpers fairly consistently. It's just his three-pointer sometimes lets him down. I think he's good off the bench. I think he's a decent bench point guard. So I'm going to give Dennis Schroder A B, maybe a B plus. I'll give him a B plus because there were many times where the team was just depleted with injuries, and he had to pull off a lot of big performances, and he has put on big performances so far this season. So I'm gonna give Dennis Schroder a B plus. Yeah, maybe a B, but I'm gonna give him a B plus. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. Okay, let's move on to Troy Brown Jr., another one of Darvin's favorites. This guy always seems to make the starting lineup one way or another due to LeBron being out or Anthony Davis being out or, D'Angelo Russell being out. He seems to find his way into the starting lineup one way or another. He's had somewhat of an up and down season shooting the ball. I think he's come on strong as of late. So let's take a look at some of his shooting splits for the season to kind of illustrate the up and down year he's had. I mean, he started off shooting 29% from 3 in October, 34% from 3 in November, and then he's upped his production with 38% in February and 42% from March. So he's played a lot better as of late. He is a pretty decent defender. He has good size at 6'6", can guard the wing position, is on a minimum contract as well. So I'm gonna give Troy Brown a B plus as well. I think he's been decent. I think he's been decent for the Lakers. Is he the solution long term? Probably not, but for this season he'll do the job, in my opinion. Okay, now let's move on to the main guys, the big two. I'll start off with LeBron James. LeBron James, 38 years old, is he this year? 39? What is he? I think he's 39. No, he's 38 or 39. Let me check. Yeah, he's 38 years old. 38 years old, and he's putting up these numbers. 30 points a game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. This guy is just a physical freak. Shooting 50% from the field. His three-point shot has let him down this season. He's only shooting 31% from 3. But he's been great. I mean, there's little drop off to LeBron James from last season. Of course, he broke the scoring record this year, so that makes him the NBA's all-time scorer. But, people have said that Father Time has not caught up to LeBron James yet. I'm going to slightly disagree with that because he has been out due to injury on multiple occasions as a Laker, and it's seeming to be more of a regular occurrence for him. This time around, he's dealing with a foot injury that he suffered in that game against Dallas, and he's going to be out for 3 to 5 weeks or something like that. I don't know if he's going to make it back to the regular season. Maybe he'll play in 3 to 5 regular season games the rest of the way here. So he's not been available, and sometimes availability is the best ability, and he's not been able to do that. So given the expectations that we have on a guy like LeBron James to be there night in, night out, I mean, this team really needs LeBron James, right? It goes without saying. And for him to not be available for a lot of spells throughout the season and the expectations that we have on him, I'm going to give LeBron a B. Okay, he's been great, but he's not been available. His shot has not been falling this year at all, but he's been good at the same time. So I think a B for the expectations that we have on LeBron is fair for this season. Now, lastly is Anthony Davis. This guy is somewhat becoming a polarizing figure in the Lakers fan base as well because of the injury. I mean, his injury, history is even more checkered than LeBron James. This guy has missed so much time since the Lakers won the championship in 2020 that it's been a while since we've seen Anthony Davis at his best. But in his defense, we've seen stretches throughout this year where AD has looked every bit of the AD that we loved in 2020. There was that spell of games where he was like, scoring 40 plus points, getting like 20 plus rebounds before he got hurt, right? Before he ran into Jokic's leg midair and had that stress injury on his foot. He was balling out of control and looking like, a top 7 player in this league at that time. And then this recent stretch of games, he was like, he's been putting up like 30 and 20 games as of late. He's kind of had a 2-game skid here, but before that, he was looking very dominant as well. So there have been moments this season that AD looks like he's on his way back to being an elite player in this league. But he's had injuries again this year. And this was the one thing that I wanted out of the season. I didn't really expect much going into the year. I wasn't expecting championship at all. The one thing I wanted was to see AD if he could play the whole season healthy. He wasn't able to do that. But he's at times looked dominant, which is a very encouraging sign for Lakers fans out there. So I'm going to give AD, I'm going to give him a B as well. Been disappointing from the free throw line as well, might I add. Just several occasions where he's missed key free throws, like that game in Philadelphia. There was another game where he missed crucial free throws. I think Boston as well. The Boston game at home, that game almost broke me as a Lakers fan. So there have been occasions where Anthony Davis has missed key free throws. This recent game against the New York Knicks, I think he was like 1 of 5 from the free throw line, and we lost by 4 points or something like that. So, there have been moments where he's let us down at the free throw line, but there have been moments where he's looked very dominant. So I'm going to give AD a B for the season. So that is the overall grades for all the players for this current Lakers roster this season. Let's talk about Darvin Ham real quick. Let's give him a grade. Didn't expect much out of him going into the year. This is a first-time head coach. I don't know why the Lakers decided to employ a rookie head coach, essentially, which Darvin Ham is. I've been somewhat underwhelmed by his rotations. His body language on the touchline sometimes looks like he's just spectating and not actively coaching the team in-game. His in-game tactics, I don't know, are average right now. In his defense, he did get a tune out of Russell Westbrook, right? This was the best Russell Westbrook that we saw in a Laker uniform, which was under Darvin Ham's, coaching. The team does compete on the defensive end. They do put forth effort, unlike last season, which was an absolute train wreck. So you got to give him positive marks for that as well. Given that I wasn't expecting much at all from Darvin Ham this season, I'll give him a C+. It hasn't been a disaster from him, but, he leaves a lot to be desired at this point. Hopefully, for the Lakers' sake, he can grow into this head coaching role, improve. He is a young head coach, a rookie head coach, like I mentioned. So, he can learn more tricks, right? He can add to his repertoire, and hopefully, in future seasons, if he's still a Lakers head coach, we'll see a better version of Darvin Ham. And I think he has an opportunity and a chance to do that and show that as the Lakers head coach. Now, lastly, I just want to talk about Rob Pelinka, because this is a GM, a front office executive that has been under a lot of fire by the Lakers fan base in recent seasons, and justifiably so, right? I mean, he took a championship roster in 2020, and in 2 years, we were a 33-win team. That's just unacceptable for a Lakers GM. I mean, that Russell Westbrook trade, now is confirmed to be an absolute flop. However, the trade deadline, was a masterclass by Rob Pelinka. I really got to give him a lot of props for saving the season the way he did by acquiring D'Angelo Russell, acquiring Jared Vanderbilt, acquiring guys like Rui Hachimura and Mo Bamba, while offloading guys like Westbrook, Pat Bev, Kendrick Nunn, and only giving up 1 first-round pick in the process. So I think he had a tremendous trade deadline, maybe the best. I mean, you can argue that the Suns won the trade deadline because they got Kevin Durant, and I'd probably lean towards that because they're, in my eyes, one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the NBA championship now. But Rob Pelinka, he had to move a lot of parts in short order, and he did that. I give him an A+ for the trade deadline. But going into into the season, I mean, the roster looked very bad, and it was painfully obvious that this team was not going to be a good three-point shooting team going into the year. And we were 29th, 30th for a long time from beyond the three-point line. I mean, what is it with this Lakers franchise? You know, I actually did the research here. Since the 93-94 season, do you know how many times the Lakers have had a top 10 three-point shooting team? Just guess. 4. 4 times in 30 years, the Lakers had a top 10 three-point shooting team. It was 96-97, 02-03, 07-08, the year that we got Pau Gasol, and 2013-14, a 27-win season. And that was a year where we had like Jody Meeks, Steve Blake, Nick Young, and the Lakers surprisingly had the third best three-point shooting team that season. But yeah, 96-97 we were 10th, 02-03 we were 10th, 07-08 we were 6th, and 2013-14 we were 3rd. So in the past 30 years of Lakers basketball, we've had a top 10 three-point shooting team 4 times. I don't know what it is with this franchise and lack of three-point shooting. It's you know, in my eyes, that's the Lakers' reputation now. Just a non-shooting franchise. And Rob Pelinka, going into the year, set themselves up to continue that tradition. So I can't really give him an A for the season overall, even though he did a masterclass, you know, at the trade deadline. So I'll give him a B. Okay, he did salvage the season, and I am looking forward towards the playoffs. Unlike, you know, the previous year where we were just like, you know, the season was over by now, and that's been the case for what, 10 of the past 12 Lakers seasons. I mean, this has been the worst period in Lakers history. We still won a championship in this worst period, but it's been the worst period in Lakers history. So Rob Pelinka gets a B. I think that's about it. I mean, the grades have been up and down. Not too many Fs out of this current Lakers roster. I'm sure there will be Ds and Fs if we took a look at the entire roster of 24 players that have played as a Laker this season. But for this current crop of Lakers that we have right now, it looks all right. It looks all right. And that gives me some optimism going into the playoffs. Not a whole lot, just because we only have how many games to gel as a team? I mean, how many games are we going to see of a full Lakers roster? I don't know. And, you know, there are a ton of good teams out in the West. So that's the video. Let me know your thoughts on these Lakers players. What grades would you give them? What grades would you give Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka for the season? Love to know your thoughts. That's it. Thank you for watching. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel for more NBA talk. Take care, and I will see you soon.